What would you say is the snack that you've gone to most often outside this calendar period of Christmas?
Oh, mate, I feel that's a pretty easy answer. This is a good way to start the podcast. I think the only answer for me is Jaffa Cakes for the non-British. Well, I don't like the way you're looking at me like that. What is that expression? For those who aren't in the know or not from the UK, Jaffa Cakes might be the greatest confectionery known to mankind, and they are cakes. They are not biscuits, and I will not hear any debate on that. But I don't like that. I don't like that reaction.
No, you're just
You're
such
scaring me
a
a little bit.
2008 gamer kid stuck in their teenage years eating Jaffa
What?
Cakes with their headphones on. Come on, grow up. You're a
2008.
grown up now. This is Christmas. What was your snack? Jaffa Cakes. Come
You
on.
said outside of Christmas.
I need an. No, sorry, I said that. I did word that poorly. When I said it, I hope you did. Yeah, I thought you hope
Well, yeah,
got
you said
that.
outside of the Christmas period or the festive
I
period.
tried to gloss over that, but in reality, I meant within the Christmas period. I actually said it dramatically wrong. Within the Christmas period.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not really
Festivities.
I couldn't tell you, because I don't like mince pies, and I'm concerned how you're going to react to that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're all that.
No, I like them. Don't get it wrong, but firstly, I think if you aren't wild on them and you don't seek the best one, you're always going to have bad ones. I had 100 bad ones this year. 100, but I like them until I created the ones I like, or I went to somewhere I knew had fantastic ones. But run-of-the-mill mince pie these days, dead. Super jammy, way off on the levels of pastry to filling. And it's just always way too sweet. The seasoning's always off. The textures are not always great. So, yeah, I get it. I get it. But what else?
I will double up and say, well, I'm going down the route of negativity. We talk about negative framing when it comes to YouTube. I'm doing it with life right now because Christmas pudding stands as the worst part of a Christmas dinner and a Christmas anything, really. No one eats it in my household. No one.
This is, again, where I would say I understand that. But for someone like myself, that actually could be my favourite part of that. And the reason I say that is one of the recipes, as you know, fanatical about food, comes from my mother.
Of course.
And that's really where it stemmed from. And her mother wasn't much of a chef, but she made a couple of classics growing up in the sort of war times, right? So minimum rations, minimum resources. And she made a phenomenal Christmas pudding. And my mum has since taken over the method. And I don't think a lot of people realise this is not just a cake. This is not a pudding. This is not some sort of batter you whip together. This is a process meticulously crafted over months. I'm not even kidding. The harvesting, firstly, of all of the assortments of fruits, of which there are many in vast quantities, which, just to add to it, are not cheap these days either. But that's besides the point.
I'm sure.
Not only do you have to wait for the curation process, not only do you have to let it marinate of sorts, but then it requires about 4 rounds of steaming. This thing gets steamed about 4 rounds before it even sees a Christmas plate. I'm not even kidding. It's ridiculous. And then, once delivered, and it's with brandy butter, a nice ice cream of choice, and you have the contrast of textures, flavours, the very well-balanced fruits with the Christmassy tones. It's a phenomenal dish. However, 99.8% of them are terrible. And it is factual.
Yeah, I've never been one for it. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't think Christmas dinner as a whole is like turkey for me. I'd never pick it over chicken. There's a reason we only have it once a year. It's not better than chicken. I'm sorry.
You know what I will say? I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again, but it's a real one. I think a lot of the times turkey executed incorrectly. I'm just
that's true. No, I had good turkey this year. It was nice, to be fair. I won't dispute. I just think chicken is
a lot of the times it just gets a bad rap because people aren't cooking it that well, because it's not an easy thing to cook because it is a lean meat. So it isn't any secret that there is less fat, so there's less margin for error. That's basically what it comes down to with fat content. So you have to be a lot more particular over preparation and execution. And a lot of people do just overcook it because they're scared because it's a poultry.
It's true. It's true.
And they think, chicken, it's going to be raw. I've got to cook it. And then they go crazy over. And that's where this whole narrative comes from, in my opinion. An executed turkey done well is delicate.
That's a fair point. This is how we start things on the MMA Creators podcast. This is how we get it done. And I wanted to say, I will sort of provide the segue here, because you say, speaking of food, I just so happened this morning, actually, whilst doing probably a little bit more doom scrolling than I should have been on Instagram Reels, to come across one of yours, actually, a Food Fighters Instagram Reel of your steak with the juices on the chopping board, and you were sliding it to a bowl or a plate. And mate, I can't lie, that was I had steak the other day, and it sort of took me back a little bit and made me very, very hungry. And I did see that I was more interested. Obviously, we aren't too superficial when it comes to these sort of things, but the metrics on it were pretty good, which is, I think, always something a positive for you, because I know obviously Food Fighters and is your not main priority, but one of your pillars, if you will. So to see it translate well, or the algorithm, I guess, liking it, if we want to say it like that, I'm sure that made you very happy.
Not the algorithm liking it. Let's be intentional with our wording this year, so people know how these things run. People liking it.
People,
the reason
very
I say
true, yes.
The reason I say that is, firstly, thank you for bringing it up, because I wanted to bring it up more so for, yes, to probably stroke my own ego to a certain extent, but also on a wider, more broad scale, there is a big lesson at play here, which I really do believe is the trend for 2025. I just messaged Nathaniel and said, this is what I think is going to be the play for next year, and this is, I think, what we lean into. And it's something I spoke about a lot recently, but it's realism. It's transparency, authenticity.
Completely.
In its very, very bare forms, and understanding how to provide value within that. So that steak video, for example, is an embodiment of the quote I love the most from War Dogs, which is one of my favorite films.
Is that the one with Jonah Hill?
Yes.
In it? Yes. Yeah, I need to. And Miles Teller, I haven't seen it. I need to.
You have not seen that film?
No, I know what it is, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Unbelievable film. Unbelievable. And it's a true story, so that's why I can get behind it and watch it. Because you know how I am with that. But outside of that, there are some incredible sound bites and some incredible lessons learned within what they do. They're creating flipping army contracts worth hundreds of millions, but best believe there's a lot of mindset, or at least strategy, that you can get from what they do, and how to bootstrap things, and how to just essentially be all fur coat and no knickers, as my nan would say, right? So on the outside you appear as one thing, but maybe you're bootstrapping it on the backside until you actually bring yourself up to that level. And one thing that they said is, everyone's looking for the big slices of pie on these contracts, and I'm looking for the crumbs. And I see content which does extremely well and extremely viral, and it's people accentuating the crumbs, the tiny aspects of life. The man that crushed content this year was the 9 to 5 guy, who really highlighted the tiny elements of a generic life, of an average life.
Yes, yeah.
Sliding his laptop into his bag before he goes to work, opening the fridge, pouring the coffee.
Almost a little too smooth.
Of course, too smooth, right? Because that was the style
kind of the point,
that
isn't it?
man.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be very neutral, but done to a very efficient level. And that was the voice of his content, but everyone did it in a very different way, right? And circling back to what it actually came from in regards to that steak, that is literally a video of me scraping steak juice onto my plate before we go and sit down watching the UFC, and just in a very small way, with a little bit of text and some audio, creating a storyline out of that, just by saying, point of view, the UFC starts in 10 minutes. You can instantly now draw people in, because there's 3 plates, so it instigates that you're going with friends. Now it's open to shares. Now people can tag their friends. Now it's, okay, we need to do this next time. Okay, it's, this was us last week, right? And then you're creating this shareability within a micro crumb, which people would look past and think about the grand episode. Oh, I need to create the Food Fighters episode for this week, this amazing steak video, and I need to get these edits and this. I'm getting super into it, but you catch my drift.
No. I think a good way to describe that is you're taking something ordinary and authentic. Authentic is probably the more important word there. And I guess you're upgrading it by you're romanticizing something that's ordinary, essentially. I think that's the
Storytelling.
best way to put it. Yeah, exactly. You're storytelling
Not
through a
even
sort of romantic
romanticizing,
lens.
just storytelling, authentically storytelling.
That's how I see it personally. I think it sort of gives it an added flair, which isn't, it's not obvious, right? It's, as you say, it's just a little thing like the text, maybe a little bit of music, and yeah, you're telling a story in a matter of what, 20, 30 seconds, if that, right? That takes a skill. There is a skill and there's a practice to that. And
Oh, for sure.
I spoke
For
about
sure.
this a while ago. Well, maybe not this specifically, but in terms of authenticity, stripped back content, we've had discussions about that a while ago. Again, Sam Sulek was probably the guy that came up in that conversation as an example of that, and that's, you know, becoming an avenue now, or maybe coming full circle back to it, because I think if you go back in terms of content creation 15 years ago, that
OG vlog
was the
days.
status quo, right? Exactly. You know, mid to late 2000s, right? In the early period of YouTube, and then we hit this sort of overproduced period, if you will, that term I didn't make it up, the Mr. Beastification, and sort of everything that came with that, and that became a new option. And now, as I said, we're coming full circle back to this authentic strip back style. So now is definitely the time for that, to push that content. So seeing that do well, it's great. It must be gratifying. Like, again, not from a purely superficial point, but just proof that it works, right? Proof that people want to see that style of content, right?
It's more gratifying knowing that the structure or the strategy that I'm getting for Casuals Corner as a whole is forming, right? Because everything you just said there, 100%, because why is that the truth? Because history always repeats itself, right? And what we're seeing, as you said, we're coming full circle with what people like. The context is different, but it pretty much is the same. You're getting people that are vlogging now, and the things that go most viral are stupid, funny animal clips. Mudeng, 2024 example.
Oh my God.
The biggest superstar of the year, right? Oh, do you see what I'm saying? So these things are still the exact same structure. So once you understand that human behavior always gravitates towards the same things, now, what does that look like in regards to what I'm actually doing? To give some actual constructive sort of imagination to this, is I've realized I need to lean more into the comedic side, more into the skits, more into the memes, whether it be memes through actual footages of fighters that I've started doing more, whether it be me recreating skits, whether it be small things where I play into trending clips, like what I've been doing recently with Nathaniel, and then you can bootstrap and leverage attention from elsewhere, but also then play into the comedic level. Because what I've said before, and what I'm realizing more than ever, is comedy is perfect because you can remove language a lot of times. And that's what I spoke about before, is what we're trying to create when we're trying to create the most viral content. If that's the angle for that particular piece of content, maybe it's food because that removes language. Maybe it's comedy because that sometimes removes the language. Then you have this potential to really open up people that you're reaching. So now it's not just, okay, people that like MMA and this super sub niche. Now it's sometimes, okay, we can transcend into bigger demographics as well.
Casting a wider net.
Just casting a wider net and knowing that we're leaning into aspects that have higher market caps, essentially, like memes, like skits, like food. So for me, it's just kind of validation that, okay, this is the right strategy that I'm curating. This is the right plan. And just execute now. This is mainly my thing, is just continue to execute at consistent, higher level every day.
Yeah, that's what, not in terms of that, but what you said about, well, I phrased it as casting a wider net. That's what I've been trying to do in terms of packaging with my content. So as I said, just before we press record, I literally, as of we're recording my new video on my Michael Bisping documentary I talked about the other week, has just gone live.
Perfect.
And I aimed with the packaging, with the thumbnail, with the title, to go a little bit different route with it. Still, you know, fundamentally me. I think it's important to not lose sight of that, lose sight of your style and what you want to produce. But I decided to change the direction with its approach. So I essentially decided to be a bit broader in terms of my title. be a bit more appealing to a mass audience rather than just the MMA fan base. I'm trying to get the people invested who aren't invested in MMA. Get
Sure.
them to click on the video. That is the ultimate goal, really, is if you can get those people clicking, you've already got the MMA audience in the bag.
Sorry, I
right?
wanted to try and get it
So,
up. So as you were talking, I weren't trying to
no,
go on
go
my
for it.
phone.
I
One-eyed
love your
man
opinions
who
on the
became-
thumbnail. Actually, I put 2 up there, so I don't know which one you're going to see, because it'll be an A/B test. But they're pretty similar. But that was my aim with this one. So I've lent a bit more cheesy in the title. I called it the one-eyed man who won a UFC title or something like that. Kept it broad, kept it appealing to the masses, and that was the sort of general aim. And it remains to be seen whether it will do well. Hopefully, it will. Because I think it's a video that deserves to in terms of its production and how much effort I put into it. I'm pretty proud of it. So I'm crossing my fingers, I have to say. But yeah, it's
I think it's a good time to do a Michael Bisping documentary as well, because we always talk about timing, right? And he's just coming off the back of
I was
doing
worried
a big
about that a little bit.
podcast with. Why would you be worried?
Well, because MMA's this is that one sort of period in the year where there isn't really any MMA.
Perfect.
So I was like, almost it is the
That's
right
the time
right?
people are watching more of these things.
Yeah, that's true. I was
being
sort of considering that.
Right?
I'm not pessimistic. I just didn't know.
There's no
I was stuck. My brain was stuck between 2 routes, right? Whether no one's going to be watching or everyone's going to be watching, right? Because they're craving MMA sort of content because there's nothing going on. So I'm not sure, but it remains to be seen. I think I mentioned the other week when I was planning on making it and sort of doing the early structure of it, that no one had really done a Michael Bisping documentary bar a couple, and they were a long time ago. So there is that angle. There is a gap there to capitalize on, I think. So
I think one thing that people definitely haven't done on him is his early life is obviously an incredible story to tell, and there's so many stories with his early gym days and him training in Manchester and the transition to California, and even before that when he was just growing up in Manchester. But there's not a lot of people, again, doing that, but also post-career. He's done a lot post-career that a lot of people haven't really touched on, where he's now become a consistent award-winning analyst in the game, commentator of the year. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the MMA space, one of the biggest YouTube channels. He records films in Hollywood in XYZ locations. So he's done almost as much, if not more, than almost every fighter in UFC history as well. And then you pair that with the fact that he's one of the most storied UFC fighters, some of the most wins, some of the most strikes, some of the most everything.
Hall of Famer.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. And I think from start to finish, with Tough, literally at the start of Tough to now, I think he's the most UFC fighter of all time. I genuinely do.
Yeah. That was actually the problem I ran into, because it was a career documentary, right? And I went from his early life. Again, I didn't spend too long in it because, I just, the way I structure my videos, I didn't want to spend too long. I only got a week. I only spent a week making him, right? I do a week at a time.
Sure.
And I played around with changing that. But for this one, I mean, it's actually less than that. For this video, I ended up taking a little bit longer, hence why it's coming out today.
I got a question.
But yeah, shoot.
Do you think this year, this is a question, do you think this year you say, okay, for the first quarter of the year, so the first 4 months up until essentially UFC London, I half the videos?
So 2 a month.
Half the videos.
I'm tempted, yeah. I have considered that.
At a minimum. At a minimum.
So spend even longer than that.
I'm not saying to do this or to do that. I'm just saying, have you thought about this? Because
I've thought about it. Like, there's been times, like the Topuria video I spent longer on, and then that one did pretty well.
The reason I say that is just because obviously you've got to a level now where you've spent pretty much a year solidly operating at a level where you're making money now, and you know what your workflow looks like, and you are creating at a certain output. It reminds me similar to when I was doing it as a personal training journey, and then you build up loads of clients. So essentially you build up loads of videos, you don't have clients at the moment paying you. You have media, right? So that's your form of leverage. So you build up loads of clients, build up loads of videos, try and create as many clients or videos as you can to get as much money, and then realize you've got to a level where actually you can half it, do it at a higher quality, and then reap more money than if you were working more frantically.
Well, that's the gamble, isn't it? So
Is it-
I don't know
is
what
it
that
a-
looks like in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
sure.
metrics. Well, we don't know, right? So that's something I'd have to experiment
You'd
with.
have to test it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's about
Would you
taking that
wanna
jump,
do
isn't
that?
it? I mean, yeah. Sometimes I'm one of those people that
I think you should.
when it might, it's tricky in my workflow. I get to a point. I feel like the bit where I do my best work and when I'm feeling the best is right when I'm in the middle of it. Right when I'm in the middle. So I'd say about halfway through. That's when I'm cruising. I'm at my best. At the start, in terms of if we're talking about the editing process, actually more specifically, at the start is I struggle a lot because I'm generally don't work chronologically. I jump between different parts of my timeline, what I feel I can crack on with first, and that can be getting over that first hurdle and then sort of kickstarting the momentum can be a bit tricky. And then it's the final sort of stretch. That's probably the hardest part. But it's that middle point where I work at my best. And I feel like part of me, if I spend longer on videos, will find it harder to keep as engaged on the same project
That's fair.
and wanting to jump onto
That's
the
fair.
next one, if that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure because, again, sometimes it's different. But we'll see. So I don't know if you can hear a dog barking in the background. But
Okay. Maybe it
that
could.
is a new one.
Maybe it could sort of open up different avenues for how you create the videos as well if you give it more time. Maybe at the moment you're thinking lineal in regards to, okay, if I had more time, the process would look the same, but maybe the process wouldn't look the same. Maybe the process would actually include one day where you went and filmed a couple of pieces. Maybe it's in your house, your garden, maybe it's in in London, maybe it's at training, whatever it may be. I'm just
That's
giving an
true.
example, you know. So it's not
Yeah,
that
that's true. So
the
not necessarily in terms of length
the process
or
wouldn't
the process being
necessarily
the
just be
same.
replicated over a longer period of time. It can completely restructure what the process looks like at all. So it can make it a lot more enjoyable as well. That's what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I've considered. I've considered doing that I actually got, it's not my idea or anything. I got it from someone else on YouTube. But they basically have a script and they will talk to the camera and then sort of in between words they'll cut continuing the same sentence but in a different location. It's nothing that's original really, but it's just such a smooth
That's a good idea
slick
as well.
transition and it works really well. And I feel like that could work well for a storytelling piece.
I think you should
So yeah.
definitely do that. That's a great idea. I would definitely be more engaged watching your video if you did that from time to time. If it was in different cool, you have a lot of cool locations at your disposal. Go and do it in some sick locations.
Yeah.
Like, go and
I
spend a
should.
day in sick locations getting the coolest shots in London. You literally live in London. You may as well use it to your disposal. If you're going to live in the city, you have to use the city.
That's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
Something I
It's
need to
about
do better.
upgrading, isn't it? No, it's true. I think something you'll probably relate to this. I think something you struggle with as the bar that you set just keeps getting higher is you have to find new ways to innovate off your own work, right? To innovate, to be better, to do better things.
For sure.
And the more and more videos you make, the harder that is to do. If that makes sense, you have to find a new angle, and that angle becomes harder and harder to spot every time you make a new video. Personally, so
I think
I mean, I guess it's
that,
hindsight as well, but
I think with that as well is it's just a very on-brand way to have a visual, hard-hitting hook early in your videos as well, if you want to use it there, because it's going to be something simple yet aesthetic, yet very, very discreet not discreet, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's going to be subtle in regards to it's just a background change, nothing else, right? So I think it is very on brand with what you would be trying to do. And also, in any form of content, it's always good to understand how can we create hooks. Is it a visual hook, the background? Is it a visual hook with text? So
sound,
a sound. There's so many different elements of how you want to do it. Maybe it's a combination between all of them. Maybe it's a combination between absolutely none, but one done to a very, very certain level. So if it's sound, it's a particular ASMR piece. Maybe it's a knife going over a piece of toast before someone's about to cook, right? Something very abrasive. So yeah, something to consider for sure.
Yeah, I think it's about keeping the flow. That's the main thing of it. Whenever I'm making videos,
True.
whenever I'm editing, regardless of how I'm building tension or creating a hook, any of that, it's about just maintaining flow and keeping just not disrupting the viewer. I think that's the most important thing. Is it shouldn't be glaringly obvious when you make a switch or you change the pace or anything like that. It should just be there without the viewer even realizing, and that's easier said than done. And I got some. I think I might have mentioned this the other week, but I got a message from someone who I went on a podcast with. Actually, I think I did talk about this. Looking for advice on their Usyk documentary, and it was good. And the intro started with a nice pace, intense, but they never gave the viewer a moment to even breathe, and
Too
that felt
fast.
really jarring to watch. Right? Yeah, it's fine being fast, but if you don't just slow it down a little bit right before you go into your next sequence after the intro, I feel like
It's
it
like
gets
a run,
exhausting.
right?
And I
You're
want
going
to click
for a
away.
jog. You don't want to just sprint at the start and then you just can't keep that pace.
Yeah, exactly.
You can jog out the front, out the front door. Feel yourself. You're striding. You're like, yeah, this is going to be easy. I'm going to hit a good pace, and then you got to settle. You got to settle because you're getting a little bit of a stitch.
Get into a
You're
rhythm.
getting 400 meters in. It's hurting a little bit more than it should. A little bit out of breath, and things are getting a little dicey. So yes, you are right on the
yeah,
nut.
but that is actually an important thing. I think that's something for those listening who are looking to get into content creation. I think there's actually an element that a lot of content creators completely miss, particularly with storytelling stuff. I think obviously it's a bit more prevalent there. It is something that people just forget about within the editing process. They're so focused on high intensity, right? Because that's what's in a lot of ways has been programmed into people and content creators over the last like 4 or 5 years. Is it has to be this, it has to be people shouting, it has to be this, that, high editing, big motion graphics, flashy, because you're trying to just appeal to. I mean, I don't even know who you'd be even appealing to at this point with that sort of style, because it's almost out of fashion now.
Misinformation, I think. I think it was misinformation where people said, no one has attention span, so you have to be this way. I think it was misinformation because I think there may be elements of that for sure, but I think the truth, like I always said, sorry to cut you off, I'll throw it back over to you.
No, it's fine.
It's more so people have so many options now. So if your option is not appeasing the person consistently, and then I think the narrative just changed for what that is. So I think now we're getting to a world where it can be slowed down and emphasized on storytelling because people want substance, they want quality now, and they define
that comes back to what we were saying.
Sure.
Yeah, full circle.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
But the real reason I thought that was good when you brought that up is because on my board this week I wrote another keyword. You said last week you said proactive, which I thought, yes, that is going on
You'll
my
actually
buzzwords.
like this real quick. Sorry, I'm just going to return and cut you off again for a second because I know you can't see the camera. I did show this on stream the other day, but in my notebook, I've got that written down. Proactive leverage on a notepad, on a sticky note, pasted right in the first page of my notebook is those two words.
I've got one more.
So yeah, sorry. Please
continue. No. I've got one more to add. So get the pen ready. That's what I'm saying.
I have to get another post-it note.
You got to hit the trio. I feel like it just sits nice. Boom, boom, boom. 3. You said proactive. I thought 100%. That was one thing which I definitely could have done better this year. I had big opportunities keep coming up, and I couldn't execute always the best that I wanted because I was being proactive. Now, on one hand, it was difficult because I didn't know what was coming up and everything on the time schedule was going crazy. On the second hand, I could have done better. So this year, proactive 100%. Leverage, we spoke about that before. This year as well, we've already spoke about this, so it rounds it off as well. Storytelling, that is the key word. If I storytell this last 12 months with the content that I have, the rest should take care of itself. Storytell the same way I just storytold on a piece of steak on a chopping board being scraped off, for my clothing, for Food Fighters, for the last 12 months, because I was recapping it, just making notes. And I know we spoke about things that we did last week across the year, there were so many things that I was writing down that I just thought, oh my goodness, I've not even taken a second to really reflect some of the things which have happened this year. Just some of the crazy moments. I know I've spoke about it here and there, and I've sort of maybe thought about it or whatnot.
Yeah, be
saw a
proud of it.
photo. It's not even being proud of it. It's more so just because so many different things have been happening constantly throughout the year, which I'm so grateful for. I haven't taken a second to look and think, oh my goodness, this was kind of nuts. And that's not even including January and February, just going from ringside at 1FC and then thinking about the flipping UFC Manchester week. Even the fact that I was caught up in the scrap that went viral with Volk and flipping Javid Bashra.
Oh my
and then
God,
MVP
yeah.
and Bashra. And then me being there with Juliana Pena. That week was insane. Meeting Eric Nixit, Bisping, being just behind the McGrgeor fight, going and watching Nathaniel win. Having UFC Macau, being in the corner, being flipping, going to hold.
Yeah. Being on fucking TV.
Not even just being on TV. That wasn't. But just being in the corner.
Well, not for anyone
UFC
else, but that's still
Macau.
pretty cool. Being on the UFC broadcast.
Finally having
cool.
a good conversation with Uriah Faber and picking his brain about his upcoming projects and the businesses he had. That was cool. Doing that in UFC Macau.
Taking leg kicks from Justin Gaethje.
Taking leg kicks from Justin Gaethje. Like, what the hell? I started writing all these things down. Even the time that I went and filmed with Paddy Pimlet in Camden.
Of course, yeah.
Doing the food episode, and then doing a food fighters with Nathaniel at the pizza place, and then flipping going to Thailand to Bangkok and being with President Awesome in the pit in Bangkok, and then going to it. Honestly, I was listing it down, and I just thought, this has been nuts. Honestly, this last 12 months has been nuts. I haven't mentioned going to flipping Thailand for Volkanovski's t-shirt.
Of course, yeah. Oh yeah.
Jesus, I remember. Nuts.
Did that Paddy video ever go out? The food.
There was never enough footage of what we eventually caught. There was never really enough footage.
Yeah,
of what
I was going to say.
Do for it.
Same with the Volk one with the t-shirt. I've never seen the video of it.
That's basically fully edited. It's requiring 2 more voice notes from me, voiceovers for that video. That's scheduled for February. January is the UFC
Save
Macau
it for when he fights. I'm assuming you're doing that, but
I wasn't going to, but I can do that.
Yeah, you should do.
It's a good idea. What, you just think to say that?
Yeah. No brainer. Yeah.
Do you think it'll make that much of a difference or not really?
I mean, I'm sure it would, yeah. I'd sit on it. Listen, put it this way. I made the mistake of not doing that. Yeah, then save it. Why not? You've been sitting on it for this long. I made the mistake of not doing that when I wish I remembered what the video was. I believe it was a John Jones one, actually. And then I did another John Jones one later on when he was fighting.
Oh, really?
And it performed much better. And I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's like we're not even talking about fighting. It's just he's going to be trending more at that point.
Search engines.
So if we want to... Exactly. At the bottom line, that's what it is. And it's going to naturally probably do better that way. So
affiliates-wise, I've sold 2 pull-up bars today on Amazon. Hey? You know what? I finally took the jump and just set up my Amazon affiliates. And now I've got my Amazon affiliates account. Now when people ask me for things like DJIs, like pull-up bars, like camera equipment, I can send it through my Amazon link and then get the commission on the back end, because people always ask me
What's that?
Things.
What percentage is that? Like 10%?
It's not a lot on Amazon affiliates, I don't believe.
Sure,
it's very small percentages. On TikTok it's good percentages, but on Amazon affiliates it's relatively low. But the two are probably going to integrate this year. I reckon Amazon affiliates will tie over to TikTok. So nice. Storytelling this year. Storytelling. I'm telling you, it goes for you as well.
I mean, for sure, that's my bread and butter, innit?
And you take short form more seriously. We both
this is literally what I was about to just say, because I haven't really said explicitly, but I've kind of always had my doubts about TikTok in terms of its viability for me personally. But I had a bit of a mindset shift. No, of course it's silly, and I've changed my opinion on that. And the reason that is...
I'm happy.
The reason I say that now is because I saw something. I think it might have been Paddy Galloway on Twitter, who I'm sure you follow to an extent.
His content,
He
by the
said
way, is
something.
incredible on YouTube. Sorry to butt in.
I
but
don't watch his
people need to
YouTube
know
stuff,
that.
but I like
You've
his
never
Twitter
seen
threads.
it? You
His Twitter threads.
have to watch his YouTube
For those who
channel.
don't know, can you explain what he does? Just
have you not
quickly.
seen it genuinely? Because
No,
I'm
not
about
his
to
YouTube
put you
stuff.
on a gem. This is a YouTube channel. I would say I learned the most about branding, YouTube, just encompassing all of those things and packaging it in certain ways off the very best. He's called Paddy Galloway, and he essentially breaks down the strategies and the branding and the marketing behind some of the biggest internet
I have seen his stuff.
sensations.
Sorry, I'm looking at it now.
I did think that you had, but regardless, a gem for anyone listening. And he breaks it all down step by step. So people like Logan Paul in there, Mr. Beast in there, the guy who does
usual
the Apple
suspects
products. Yeah, really big people, but really goes into each step of their branding. So it's super informative. But sorry, you were saying.
What was I saying about his Twitter threads? Right,
Twitter
yeah.
threads,
And he said something about the comparison between YouTube Shorts and the approach to something like TikTok. And YouTube Shorts is instant gratification, and its viewership you can kind of just claim on a dime. But with TikTok, viewership is gained cumulatively. It's more of a gradual growth, which I never really looked at it that way. I didn't realize how important consistency and just gradual posting is on TikTok. Towards it raises your minimum bar the more you post. That's what I've realized, and I've seen that with my own videos. They've just gradually started to get more and more views on TikTok. And obviously there are a few outliers here and there, but I realized I was like, if I keep doing this, even if it's just a few clips a week, like that's just cumulative, and that will just gradually come up and become more viable. So that's my goal for this year. And there's definitely, like, as I said, in terms of outliers, one of my TikToks got like 230,000 views, and that's literally just a clip from my main channel. That's what all of those TikToks are. And the minimum viewership bar is starting to go up on those videos too. So it has me excited. And we're on, I think, 130 followers now, 140 followers, which isn't a lot, right? But it's like, the proof is there.
Let me tell you what this year looks like for you. Let me tell you what this year looks like for you on TikTok, and then we'll look back on it and you'll go, oh, Will, you're so right. I don't know why I didn't listen earlier. And
actually, you tell me.
I know, because you should do this, and I am 100% right. Not even I've been there. I've just seen people follow this blueprint and execute on this model so much that it would just be a no-brainer for yourself. So the first thing that I would say to that is 100%. Someone who did this fantastically. At the start of last year, Ash said to me, so for context, he's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach at GB Top Team. He said to me, well, I want to do my TikTok. I said, right, same as Jiu-Jitsu, turn up every day, be crap, get less crap, then get good years down the line. He said, sweet, say no more. He posted one every day. Didn't really get any views. Built on it, continued to post every day. Started to see his average bar, like you said, go up. Followers just slowly creep. Not by amounts that people get desensitized because they've seen people with millions and they think that you can post a cat video and be the next flipping D'Amato or whatever her name is. No, that's not the real world that we live in. You can do that. It's possible, but it's the same way it's possible that you can be a Premier League footballer and only play football at 24. Yeah, someone's done it, but not a lot of people do it. So just know that first and foremost, because very similar to Premier League football, content creation now is becoming the most popular job children seek from a young age. So it's becoming more competitive than ever. So you have to be better than ever. So never take anything for granted. Know it's going to be a slow build.
Been there. That's a lesson you got to learn. I'm sure you've been through that as well. Like, just to ask you,
only for 4 years.
Point to a specific time? Can you no? But can you point to a specific period where you realised you were taking viewership for granted? Because I've spoken about it before when I first started and having that early Casuals Guide series blow up, and then having a straight 5-month period of shit, and then I realized that was a necessary growth period for me. So I'm just curious if you've been through that.
I didn't really ever take it for granted too much, because for so long I would post for so many years over fitness and MMA with so low viewership that eventually when I got to a level where I would see higher views consistently, I understand. It's just
it was different to how it happened to me, right? Yeah, mine was instant pretty much.
I'm in a different mindset of what that even means to me. Now I'm looking at that just objectively, right, okay, this performed to this level, so what can I learn from this? Okay, do more of this. This headline was this cutscene was this, the visual hook, the audio hook, this look, the timing, the pacing, all of this. I'm just taking out of it what is good rather than trying to get dopamine hits. Sure, I'm sure there's an element of that. Don't get twisted. It must be to some extent, but not a lot at all that it consumes me on any element. So I think because it happened so slow, I didn't really get this thing where it was, I created a video and it went viral and I'm getting this feedback from the world which says you're really good at this thing. I never got that because for so long I did hundreds and thousands that didn't get that. So when it started,
that's you'd rather have it that way as well. I
Oh,
think because then you never have to go. That's what I'm saying.
The most
it's weird, isn't it?
The most unspoken about things, and I'll throw it over to you. Let me know what you think about this.
No, sure.
A lot of there are some people who are at a level where if they just popped off, they would be talented enough or skilled enough at whatever they do online to be able to sustain the attention that they were getting. What people don't realize is if you are someone that starts just content creation in any variety, whether it's travel, fitness, MMA, podcasting, whatever it flipping is, skits, memes, if you do, let's just say, start and you do just pop off, this is something people don't realize or talk about enough. Are you capable at that moment to firstly leverage, capture, and build on that attention that you're getting? Do you have the infrastructure available? Do you have that? Now, there'll be a few people, exactly, the skills. There'll be a few people that do, but sometimes what you don't realize is it's kind of better that no one watches for a few years and you can rep shit out. Like, it's actually kind of better.
I almost wish that was the case for me.
That is the case.
Because my God.
That is the case.
Well, no, because, well, within reason, yeah. I'm just saying, like, because my third video did 100,000 views and then my next 5 or 6, 7 did really good numbers too. And that's my point though. I had the early success on videos that really, if I'd say now, definitely didn't deserve it. They weren't good. They really poor. Narration was terrible. Editing is piss poor. I relied on fight footage whilst I could get away with it. Like I'm happy to critique them as dog shit videos for lack of a better term because that's what they are. And I took that viewership and that success for granted, saying, "Oh, look, I didn't say this is easy, but I got too ahead of myself. I almost presumed that the next one would do well, and then when that same format started to fade and not having the same level of success, I started panicking. I hadn't sort of almost come to that realization that this is not sustainable in this format and with this level of quality because it's not. You captured lightning in a bottle, which is, there is credit to be given there, but you have to do more. And that was a period I had to go through, as I said, 5-6 months. And that was when I doubled my efforts as well, right? I came out of uni, doubled my efforts into content and got less than half of the results. So that was tough to go through, but it was necessary. So because it made me into a better creator as a whole. I made better content by the end of it. Once the dust had settled, I realized down that line, I'd become so much better for it. My skills had just increased. So it is necessary, regardless of, I think, whether you have the early gratification or early success or not. As long as you're putting in the hours, I think that's what really matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, with even a video that has done well, yes, it's done well, but in the general scheme of things, 100,000 people, no one in the world has seen that effectively, So that's the good thing as well. Even if you do have these pieces that are successful in the views and maybe you don't have the infrastructure or the skills aren't up to where you'd like them to be or whatever it may be, truth of it is, it's still a drop in the ocean. And you could go back, and this is something I've really doubled down on this year more than ever. And this is something that I didn't realize was as obvious as ever. And I say it to myself every year. Do more of the thing which did well. And if you've done something before which did well and you can re-engineer it slightly so it's different enough and maybe contextual and maybe brings in more trending news, do that again. Because if it's done well once or twice, it's likely going to do well again.
Within reason. I say that really. Because I did another John Jones video and it didn't hit. And I thought it was better than my other ones. I thought it was really good. And it only pulled like 19,000 views. And it was like, maybe I bit off a bit more. I can chew there.
Quite possibly. So, that's the thing. It's not as if
maybe
it's
it is. You never really know.
Then if you do an Alex Pereira video or a Conor McGregor video that you just did and that pops off, right? Maybe it would make sense to go, maybe I go a Conor McGregor and Logan Paul video where I
Oh, God.
hypothesize him out. I hypothesize the Indian $500 million boxing match, but my actual larger conspiracy at play, which I believe is actually a no-brainer, is they go boxing with Conor McGregor and Logan Paul, and then they go WWE crossover match, and it's one of the biggest crossover fights or matchups
WWE.
ever.
Conor
And
McGregor.
Conor McGregor goes WWE, I believe. And then maybe he comes back to MMA for one more
I
fight.
thought you were going to say MMA, and I was like, "There's no way." But WWE is yeah. Actually, you
Am I wrong?
say it.
Am I wrong?
I don't
That's
think you
exactly
are.
what's going to happen on Netflix. On Netflix.
Oh, God. Conor McGregor
Tell
smashing
me
Logan Paul's head
I'm
with a steel
wrong.
chair. I can just very
On
much visualize that.
Netflix. Logan Paul,
Oh, yeah.
Jake Paul,
Now you say on Netflix, yeah.
WWE.
That's a lot.
Come on.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen for 2025. It's going to be Logan Paul, Conor McGregor, boxing, WWE, crossover, Netflix. Maybe even UFC sign the
No way.
Netflix deal on their TV broadcast deal. Maybe, because that's a big topic this year. Big topic
Is
this
it?
year.
Netflix and UFC?
Mate, they haven't re-signed their new deal yet, the UFC.
What, with ESPN?
ESPN, no. Is there a
Wow.
negotiation? So it's open at the moment.
Oh, that would be...
So
I mean,
UFC
honestly, that wouldn't surprise me.
Go to Netflix. Now, because people say, no, that's crazy. It may have would have been at one point, but now we have to bear in mind that they're under TKO and Endeavor.
Oh, it's a good point.
And then WWE are now with Netflix. They've already had the integration of the boxing with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. They've already had the integration of WWE. They've already had the ripple effect, the beginning of that, and now they're opening a potential broadcast negotiation with the UFC. There'll definitely be conversations, if nothing else.
100%. I mean, put it this way. I mean, it sounds more crazy. It sounded more crazy 25 years ago if you asked the general public or told them that in the future MMA and the UFC would be on primetime TV. You know, cage fighting would be a mainstream sport. That sounds crazier back then saying that than it does now, MMA and the UFC rather being on Netflix. So yeah, 100% it could happen.
Let's even dive into it on a deeper level, just because we're going full detective mode. You've also got to think of smaller details as well, like the fact that Netflix now have their own documentary or film, I should say, on the MMA French fighter.
Oh, I want to watch that.
The inclusion of a lot of UFC fighters as well.
Cyril Gane, John Jones.
You're getting these bigger sort of
GSP
crossovers on Netflix, right? So that's also just a small detail. So I do think that's going to happen this year. Tell me I'm crazy, possibly, but I do think
I don't think you're crazy. No, well, you've sold me on it. I'll put it that way. I was not entirely convinced when you say WWE on Netflix. But now, honestly, it does make sense because they have been speaking about it, haven't they? In terms of making inroads into combat sports and more specifically, or just broadly, actually, live sporting events. And if that means WWE and
NFL just signed a big deal. Come on,
did they with Netflix?
Massive deal.
Oh
deal.
Yeah, then mate, then of course they'll be in for the UFC.
They had Christmas Day live NFL, and I didn't watch it, but I did think that's kind of cool. That is kind of cool because I know that's a big traditional thing in America in regards to Christmas periods and New Year's periods, and the NFL is a big integrated part into their culture. So to have it on Netflix and then UFC wanting to be branded with Netflix and with NFL, with NBA, NHL anyway, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it's a slippery slope.
250 million people.
And it does make sense as well.
That's their user
because
base.
I think, Netflix had a declining viewer base, I believe, a couple of years ago. They weren't doing too well. So I think this is obviously a pivot for strategic reasons.
Can I say one thing?
See it happening.
The only thing that you cannot compete with as a streaming platform, is live sports. It's the only thing, right? It's the only thing because it's live. It's not a previously streamed film or series. So whether it's Netflix, whether it's Amazon Prime, whatever it is, in my opinion, this is going to be the chase to secure live sports in the biggest and best capacities. And if Netflix can grab live sports of someone like the UFC, that is massive. That's huge because, like I said, it's the only thing, right, which isn't pre-recorded. You can't.
Yeah, there's an added angle to that. That's just it's innate, if you will. I love that word.
It is what
far
it
too much in
is,
my
right?
scripts.
You can only watch it one place. You can only react in live speed. So if it's only streamed on Netflix, then it's only streamed. And I will say, 2024 was the death of the stream because they cracked down big time this year.
Oh, mate, Streamies just got no, was it crack stream? One of the Russian links got taken down only like this week. And the thing is, they'll pop up.
Named.
They're like I'm trying to think of an analogy here. One head gets cut, the other two more come up. So I don't think it's
terrible analogy.
No, it's not. Like a Hydra, mate.
I wanted something succinct, something creative, something descriptive.
Oh, I don't know. You give me one then. I'm drawing. My mind's drawing blanks. That's all I got.
Come on, this is your job now.
That is true.
Live streamer, podcaster.
Yeah, come on, multifaceted, mate. I was actually going to ask you if we're talking of just purely content creation and I guess MMA more specifically.
Sure.
Just to round off the last 5-10 minutes, what are the biggest names I think would you say are in terms of viewership or fighters you want to capitalize on with your content this year that might do well? And they could be new names, old names, any of them. It could be fighters. It could not be anyone within the MMA world, really.
Anecdotally, who I have seen draws the biggest numbers. I'm not sure about work capacities, but just who I have seen draws the biggest numbers is in no particular order. Dana White, John Jones, Ilia Topuria, Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou. Islam Makhachev.
Pereira.
Chimaev, if I didn't say him.
Yeah, he has to be in there.
Islam, if I did say Islam.
That's really is a no-brainer, isn't it?
That's pretty much. Volk's up there.
You think? Even now?
DJ's up there.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a resurgence.
I don't know if he's had a resurgence. I think he's just finally become his authentic self and felt a bit more comfortable. Yeah.
I think he has. And the reason I say that is because of to his credit, expert transition into content creation. I don't think anyone in the MMA space, I mean, I'd say fighters specifically, but honestly, you could go broader than that and say anyone.
Top 3 this year, because you're right. He is
fighters
one.
Specifically?
Yeah. Transitions or crossovers.
I mean, Adesanya's always been pretty good.
Nah,
he's not new.
Come on. You know I don't mean that. That's a bait option. I need someone in the weeds.
Different.
Come on. Like McGrgeor Buckley has done a phenomenal job this year.
Jamal Hill
on content creation.
What he's not in terms of creating the best content. I just mean
no, but I mean marketing. I mean branding.
Okay,
that's what I meant.
Branding.
Because you're right. DJ is number one.
DJ, oh yeah, he's branding, so good.
Marketing, podcasting, YouTube's. Come on,
the guys. I don't know. My mind's drawing blanks.
Tom Aspinall's got to be on there. There's a name.
Of course. I knew it was just like an obvious one.
Think of YouTube. What's your YouTube's top 3? Come on.
Well, I'd say DJ, Tom Aspinall.
Not the ones that I've said.
I know, but I would say them. Now you said them, those I would say.
Give me some insight, boy. Come on.
I don't know why my mind's just not. Pereira's pretty good. Pereira's done quite a lot. His channel was quite solid.
I'll take that, but still quite bait pick, but fair.
No, what do you want me to say? Something's going to be the big name.
Something insightful. Something maybe that may be people wouldn't have seen. Like, I'll give you one. Sadiq Yusuf on TikTok is a phenomenally huge start. About 4 million followers on TikTok. It's crazy. He just does skit videos. Just does humor videos. Actually, nothing more times than not about MMA. Just videos of someone jumped over a goat, 4 million. Video of someone falling down a pole, 10 million. He just does humor skit videos.
He's got his career. He don't even need to fight anymore.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, I suppose there is an angle.
I saw him on live the other day. So it's all about comedy. I'm really leaning into skits this year. I'm going to do sort of MMA fighting skits. Yeah,
interesting.
100%. 100%.
Are you going to write some?
Just not like crazy sort of like super cringe skits, just silly little stupid things. For example, those type of videos where it would just be me just walking into the gym, just putting my gloves on, and the title would just be me starting MMA in 2025, and then the cutscene is, when it goes into those gyms and they're doing the most extreme workouts, like they've got the tires and they're just slamming them on. Just a couple of cutscenes of that, and then me just like walking back out. Just silly, stupid things like that, which have shareability, which have commentability is not even a word, but you see.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding. That format,
and it works. I've seen a lot of people do things like that across all forms of content. And this is what we spoke about before, really being inspired from content which is way left field of what we do. 100%.
I'm excited to see that. That is another facet, I guess. 100% take that on. That would be. I'm quite interested to watch that. So is that obviously be the main focus for TikTok and short form content?
Just short form content on it, because you know what it does very well on, which I'll say this as well. I'm glad you provoked me to remember this, is it does phenomenally well on Facebook. Skits, memes, funnies, stupids, any one of these words perform phenomenally well on Facebook. It's almost entirely this reels sometimes of just funny, silly, stupid skits, memes. It really is. But it's a very underserved population on Facebook, because everyone transitioned over because they said, no one creates on Facebook anymore. But no one actually left consuming on Facebook. So there's still millions of people, billions of people that consume on Facebook, but it's quite underserved. So having the content actually populate from Instagram to Facebook is big. And now I've actually looked on Facebook the other day. I realised I've got like 6,500 followers on there, which is quite a lot of people, I think.
Yes.
Which is
that's good.
It's quite a lot of people, right? So, and that kind of pretty much rounds out, ending the year at 250,000 people across platforms, which
pretty fucking good.
It's kind of insane when I try and think of it as casuals, right? So like 250,000 casuals. Now, the truth of it is you want 1,000 true fans. So my aim this year is
whose concept is that? I know that concept, but I don't know who created it. I was actually thinking about that the other day.
Maybe
when I was on
maybe
the
it's
bus.
oversubscribed.
I wish I knew. I remember hearing it.
There's a book called Oversubscribed, potentially from that, but it's essentially the concept you need 1,000 true fans to be very successful at what you do. 1,000 true, and it's most certainly true, especially in a world where you can create leverage off of media and code and infinitely scale things digitally online. So 100% that's true. My point is, this year is to not worry about the masses. I understand. I feel like now I've got a good concept of how I can reach bigger audiences. Combination of content and types of content which can reach bigger audiences. Execution.
I think that's the step I'm on.
That's what I think you can improve, and I'm a million miles away from where I want to be. But I can do that at a good level, I think, this year. My aim this year is to focus on the 1,000. Have a phenomenal pop-up in London. I don't know if I've dropped that exclusive before, but we spoke about it before. I'm definitely going to do the UFC London
we spoke about
pop-up.
It off the podcast.
Did we?
So, we did, didn't we, last week?
Yeah, I couldn't remember if
just
it was
afterwards.
off.
Yeah. So now, I guess it is an exclusive then. This is, unless you mentioned it elsewhere.
No.
So that is happening 100%. Then. So you are. I was going to ask you actually, but I wasn't sure if to do it on air. But you've just brought it up anyway. So
go for it.
It's happening then. You're doing
100%. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. I can't believe I didn't think of it more recently, because I had the UFC Manchester pop-up when I came back from Thailand. But the thing with that is, obviously, that was the first time I've done anything of that nature. It's kind of daunting as well, because you're asking people who just follow your page to just rock up at a random place and trying to set this all up.
What if they don't? And
what if they don't? Obviously, is the obvious thought pattern. But what was more complicated was I was in Thailand ordering samples, but needing to order samples for a hotel that I was staying at on fight week. So having things delivered from China to hopefully arrive in a window of about 3 days in a random location that I'm not at in Manchester, of which I don't know anyone that lives there. And I'm trying to get it delivered to this hotel or whatever it is.
Stressing,
and
man.
it was so many different logistics from different countries, different customs, different borders, all trying to get on the same day, and then actually getting to Manchester, trying to film, work, cover it, and then set that up with all the craziness which went on. It was nuts. So this year, I feel like if I give myself a couple of months to prepare, I feel like I'll have a very good level of experience to know exactly, right, okay, this is the structure of how I need to prepare for this. This is what I need. This is what I want. This is how it's going to be executed. So, yeah, it was an intense one. But we're going to do UFC London 100%. No brainer.
I'm
in
excited.
our hometown.
I'm excited.
And it's going to be the...
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be the drop of the jersey.
More logistically easier.
It's going to be the drop of the jersey that I'm doing with Lon as well. Yeah.
So you are doing it for then instead?
Yeah.
Because I know you said you were going to do it for January, but you're...
Well, I just think the whole theme around that jersey, right, is the tattoo that he got after that win. It's the trip to Macau. It's the Chinese heritage. It's the comic that goes along with that. It's the storytelling. But the other half of that is the other half of his heritage, which is London, which is where we're both from. It's a full circle moment for both of our careers, but also him coming back to his hometown, him fighting at UFC London, of course, having that event as well. So that's a whole different angle of it as well. So I think it just ties it in perfectly to have the drop in the pop-up on the week, build it up all for then, and just let it rip.
Mic drop.
That's my plan.
There it is. I'm excited. That'll be... Yeah, I'm going to look forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing the jersey and, of course, the comic when it is fully
it'll be good.
Finished. It'll be good. This has been the MMA Creators Podcast, episode number 85, I do believe. And we will see you once again next Sunday. Have a good one.